I'm so excited to introduce all of you to one of my favorite alumni, Flora Ekpe-Idang. She and I graduated from Pepperdine and Seaver College in 2011, and she has been just such a wonderful friend while we were students, and I've just really enjoyed seeing her grow in her business, going to business school, working for Target, just doing amazing things in the toy space. And I just can't wait for you all to hear about her today. So I'm just going to share a brief bio of Flora for those of you who don't know about her. I'm sure a lot of you do, but again, wanted to remind all of you, please type into the chat where you're zooming in from. Let us know if you know Flora, give her a shout out, and also if you are an entrepreneur yourself or you are interested in entrepreneurial ventures, let us know what you're working on. We'd love to hear about that and make this a great space to chat about it in the future. So Flora is the incredible founder of Corage Dolls, a multicultural doll company that helps to elevate, educate, and encourage girls of color to be unstoppable. She is an entrepreneur and a marketing expert and a very passionate Pepperdine alumna. She is dedicated to continuing to change the toy aisles to include positive representation of dolls of color. Corage Dolls was created to celebrate authentic Black beauty, to educate and inspire children to learn about careers in entrepreneurship, STEM activism, and to build a sense of sistership among girls, families, and advocates for the empowerment of girls of color. So I'd like all of you to join me in welcoming Flora Ekpe-Idang to speak about Corage Dolls today. Yay! Welcome, Flora.
I don't know why.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My screen is not, I don't know if it's showing on your side. It's not showing on my side, so it may be a little, is it showing on your side? Can you see me?
Let me make sure I
think it's probably on my side, but I just want to make sure.
Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know why it went away, but you can hear me. Sorry, people. Bye.
We can hear you, but your video is frozen.
Oh, it's frozen. Okay. Is it okay? This may be a little bit thrown off. Is it okay if I call right back in?
Yes. Try that.
Sorry, apologies. I don't know what's happening, but I'll be right back. I'm just gonna.
All good. All good.
Give me a couple seconds. Sorry about that.
Got it. You got it. Perfect. Thanks everyone for holding tight with our technical difficulties as we've all been experiencing during this time. Yes, yay for technology is right. Okay, Flora, can you hear us?
Okay, I'm back.
Yay! We got you. Clear picture. Beautiful voice, beautiful Flora.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Sometimes you have an older MacBook. It's on you when you least expect it. So it's so amazing to see so many faces that I know and love, and like people who like I've been on my journey with from Pepperdine. I'm seeing Augusta's face right now, and seeing so many my overmate Sasha in the chat and other friends with Amy, Susan, Jamie, Christina, so many people, Kate, a lot of people, Mary Glenn Scott used to be her RA. And so definitely excited to be here. As Hannah was saying, my name is Flora Ekpe-Idang. I am the founder and CEO of Corage Dolls, as well as I work as well with Target and do multicultural marketing, specifically on the Black audience. So very much have a lot of things going on in my life, but very much interested to dive into the narrative of being an entrepreneur, but also as well being the space of multicultural marketing.
Woo! Thank you, Flora. Well, speaking about your many connections from Pepperdine who are on this call, thank you all for joining us. Tell us about your time at Pepperdine. What were some of your most impactful experiences during your time there?
Yeah, there is definitely a couple. Like I can't start the conversation. Definitely, I like talking about my Shanghai experience. There's a lot of the people on the call who I'm close with who are from my Shanghai experience, like the international programs experience that I had the opportunity and privilege to attend. Our class who went was 2008, 2009. We were like the first group to go officially for the Pepperdine program to Shanghai, and was right after the Beijing Olympics. And it was just truly remarkable being able to meet and engage with so many phenomenal people who've become very, very close friends of mine, like family. So that's been a great experience, like being able as well, being a part of SEO, SAO, sorry. I know SEO. SAO, definitely. That's why I like seeing Avesta's face on screen. And when Hannah and I connected, that has been such a blessing. It made me appreciate even the role of alumni, even when I was a current student and not necessarily thinking that far ahead about what is this role of alumniship and the idea of a participation. Oh, I see Jessica's face. Alumni connection was so important for me. And then I think as well, I got to be a part of our gospel choir. That was another thing. Singing was very much important to me. So being able to be a part of that and that idea of just like spirit and camaraderie. And so definitely love that. And then lastly, being an RA was definitely something my last year coming into Pepperdine and being able to just provide hopefully any guidance and support to the next, thank you, Mary, Mary Glenn Scott, just this idea of what I've learned through my journey at Pepperdine and being able to continue that forward for new students who are coming in. So a lot of beautiful and great memories.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Flora, as she mentioned, she was part of the student alumni organization with me and some of the other people on this call. And Flora was our vice president of marketing and communication, and she was incredible. She and I, before this call, were chatting about our executive board and how we loved that we all had different personalities, different backgrounds, and that we all could collaborate and be a great team together. And we got a lot of work done, and we also laughed a lot. Thanks to Flora and then our friend Francis. They were laugh the whole time, so it was awesome.
We were saying that Francis, he serenaded all the women with his guitar. That was
yes.
He serenaded them as well. That was his role.
Exactly. Oh, he was so great. Well, part of your experience at Pepperdine was getting an incredible internship with a toy company, and your passion for toys and understanding of their impact on children is so evident. So tell us a little bit about your experience in the toy making industry.
Yeah, and so definitely, I'll be able to talk a little later kind of what really spawned the brand Corage Dolls, but kind of my first kind of avenue into even experiencing the toy industry was actually with Jack Specific. I'm not sure necessarily if they're located still in Malibu, but if they are, that toy company was where I very much had the first opportunity while I was a student to really get a chance to understand and just learn about the space of toys. I've been someone who, for many of my friends who know me, like I've had an interest in the space of toys for years, and especially seeing greater diversity in the toy aisle. And so being that I didn't necessarily have a network at the time that was like, okay, how do I just know directly people in the toy industry, or I wasn't connected to those spaces. And so I, decided like, hey, if this is going to be my first opportunity to really foray into the space of toys in that industry, let me do it with Jack Specific. So I was fortunate to get a great internship there. And it was, if for people, people who maybe, depending on your age, but it was right around the time when T-Pain, the rapper T-Pain, came out with his auto-tune mic. If people remember the craze of the auto-tune mic era and when auto-tune was big, Jack Specific had created a mic so you can replicate that, imitate his voice. And so when I came in as an intern, they had me in the electronics division for marketing. And they were like, hey, how do we even think about the next big craze of personal karaoke devices? And so, sucks they still their building, but it was just very fascinating thinking about new technology and thinking about the way of, games and play and toys, even the way it's being thought of now. But that was kind of my first opportunity to really just get exposure and learnings about just this world of the toy industry.
That's great. Thanks, Flora. That's so interesting. I totally remember that toy coming out.
Yes.
And now it's an app,
It's
I
on
think.
Pacific Coast Highway. Like, why would you go a little further down? Not far from campus. So.
That's so cool. Talking about your experience with toys, what was your inspiration for Corage Dolls?
Yes. So I, like to tell this narrative, but it was kind of what initially sparked it. When I was actually in high school, during my junior year, I was in health class, and I actually watched this documentary called A Girl Like Me, which was really studying the effects and the impact of, internalized racism on young Black girls, and what the media and that perspective of not seeing yourself reflected. So during this documentary, they did this thing called the doll test, which I found out was done since the 1960s. To the 1940s. That was an experiment that was actually done when board versus education was happening, to have this whole case about the idea of integrating schools. And so these psychologists, a couple, they wanted to study the impact of, like, hey, as children are being, only seeing negative images, especially children of color are seeing negative representation of themselves, negative images, what is the actual psychological impact that has in their growth and development? And so, when I watched the documentary, the test that the female had done was years later, but it was really taking a group of children, a group of Black children and white children, and they were given a doll, a white doll and a Black doll, and they asked them questions such as which doll is prettier, smarter, more likely to succeed, etc. And the Black children were overwhelmingly choosing the white doll when it came to anything positive, and they were choosing a Black doll when it came to anything negative. And then when they were asking the children, which doll do you associate with? They said the Black doll. And for me, I am a first generation American. My mother's from Grenada, my father's from Nigeria. I grew up in a household where there was an array of different dolls and representation of my heritage, but also of other identities. But when I saw that documentary and seeing kids 4 and 5 years old already making up in their mind this idea that they weren't good enough, it just really stuck with me. I didn't know necessarily in that moment, like, what did I want to do with that thought, or this notion of, like, what did it really mean for me? But ever since that junior year of my high school, has it always just stuck with me. And then, so as years progressed, I was like, you know what, let me actually look in the toy aisles. Let me actually see what representation looks like. And so being able to, over time, do a lot, and I'll explain a bit further the research and going deeper into that. But when I started to go to toy shelves and toy stores, I was seeing that less than 20% of toy shelves even had dolls of color. And if you think of the idea that, with Generation Z, today, they make up more than 50% of, people of color. And sorry, Gen Z generation is more than 50% multicultural. And so I'm like, if I'm looking at the demographics in society, and then also looking at what our products represent on our shelves and seeing truly a big disparity, why is that acceptable, and why is that still acceptable? And there are some big toy brands today that are starting to make movement, but for the most part, either you had barely any dolls of color on the shelf, or if they were on shelf, they were just kind of dolls that were painted. They were white dolls painted Black, or you had homogenous options, but overarchingly that impact of that development in children of not necessarily seeing themselves positively reflected, and seeing products and stories that really instill pride in who a person is. And so for me, over time, I was like, you know what, like, as years have gone by, and even as things progress in my life, I was just like, I'm still not seeing the change. And so I was like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna go and do something about it. So that was what really kind of sparked this idea of wanting to create Corage Dolls and actually go try to explore it.
Wow, that's so amazing, Flora. And what a just amazing thing that you're doing. And it was so sad when I read that on your website and was reading all about it. I was just like, this is, it's just such a horrible thing that has happened in our country. And I'm so glad that you are making amazing strides to change that. So thank you. And I have my Aaliyah doll, and I also have the Aaliyah doll that we'll be raffling off later today. So wonderful early Christmas present for someone in this Zoom room. So Aaliyah. Tell us a little bit about Aaliyah. She is your main Corage doll right now, and tell us about her story. Because with every doll, you're writing a story about them, which I think is so incredible and makes the doll even more special. So tell us about Aaliyah's story, and if you would like to, feel free to share a line from your book.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So with Corage Dolls, ultimately we're a multicultural doll and book company that helps to elevate, educate, and encourage girls of color to be unstoppable. And so for me, the idea was I didn't want to necessarily just create a fashion doll brand, nor did I necessarily want to create a doll company that had stories that are a bit more of an old time. Like, okay, yes, there's the Addie doll for American Girl. Yes, she was a runaway slave. There's other things that we as Black people have done since that time frame. But okay, how do we think of, and so for me, I really wanted to truly, and that's still my mission, is revolutionize the American girl with a new American girl. And this notion of that having a first character like Aaliyah come out, I wanted each doll, as I developed them, to really have a story that kind of gives this lens of a career developmental things, whether it be this lens of entrepreneurship, which is what the first doll Aaliyah is. As I'm thinking about STEM or activism, there's so many things about the community and about young girls of today who are doing such phenomenal things that resonated. So when I was creating the character Aaliyah, honestly, one of the inspirations around her, she was kind of this old soul character. And one of my close friends who also went to Pepperdine, Ashley Watson, was kind of also a thought in my mind. I used to always make fun of her in regards to like, you're such an old soul, Ashley. But this idea of being able to really just, have always be able to bring thoughts to the tables and ideas. And so with Aaliyah, I wanted her to be an inspiration based off of what I was seeing of young girls who were just creating solutions, not necessarily waiting on adults to solve every issue. And so Aaliyah, her type of personality is someone who always keeps this creative journal around, and she's always thinking of ideas and creating new ways to help solve issues in her community. And so I'm a type of person that keeps a lot of thoughts and new ideas and creative ideations in my phone. And so there was a little bit of a mirror in that personality similar to myself. And so ultimately when I was like, you know what, I want her to look and reflect like girls of color today. And so when I started to even design and work with a design to what she looked like, I wanted to make sure that not only was her story really reflective and relatable to girls that could connect today, but also the visuals can really be reflective. I'll get into as well the bit of how the actual manufacturing process worked, but that was really the inspiration in terms of thinking of a little bit myself and Aaliyah, but also my great friend Ashley as well.
That's awesome. And Flora, just real quick, it looks like I can't see your screen. I can hear you clearly. So I don't know if it's a similar
Okay. Yeah, my wheel
my
wheel is spinning right now. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this was working perfectly fine before.
I know.
And it's like, I'm like, yeah, I don't, if you can't see, my wheel is just spinning. And so if by any chance, I don't want to have to log back out again, but I want you to see me. So
Yes. Here, what I'll do is you can keep talking and I can at least I'll put up your
Okay, yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, I don't know why the system's messing up like that, but sincere apologies about that. But as I, am kind of sharing that narrative, there was kind of an element in the book about the Aaliyah character that, like, as Hannah was just talking, that felt was very impactful as I was just thinking about the character of Aaliyah, because in the midst of her being a very creative, kind of inspired by her community, she's also an entrepreneur in the making. And so I also created a children's book that goes along with the doll. And so it was very much just this idea that children today are creating and building things. And so the book called Don't Give Up Aaliyah really decided to show kids the early principles of what entrepreneurship is. And so there's something in the book that I will read as well that may be helpful as context. So there's a scene in the book where Aaliyah is creating and inventing kind of a solution to something she sees in her community. But unfortunately, she learns that other people have kind of created it already. And so she goes back to her room to think about inspiration. And so as I'm speaking here, in her bedroom, Aaliyah looks at the posters on her wall. She remembers that the business people who inspired her had trouble too. Kathy Hughes went homeless to keep her radio station alive. She believed in herself and didn't give up. Aaliyah decides that she won't either. And so that's kind of the premise of this idea of the book in terms of perseverance and continuing to move forward even despite the odds.
That's amazing, Flora.
Am I still not showing up on the screen?
You're still not showing up, but we can hear your incredible voice.
Okay. I'm trying to like even potentially like stop my computer from doing anything, but yeah, it's like for some reason it's just.
We can also, if you want, we can do a quick pause if you want to try to re-log in.
Yeah.
You want to do that quick? Okay.
Yeah, let me do that. Once again, apologies, people.
Laura, at the same time, you might want to take your phone off of Wi-Fi and close any windows that you're not using.
Okay, my phone off the Wi-Fi. Okay, my phone.
We're all learning little tricks to better our connections.
I'm gonna try to. Sorry, my computer as a whole is like. Sorry, it's like not letting me close. Give me a second. What I may do is I may briefly switch my laptop because that may actually ultimately help. So sincere apologies about that.
You can also, if you want, do it on your phone if that's possible, but if not.
Yeah, actually, let me just do it on my phone. I'm going to take my phone. I'm going to shut this down and hop on my phone. Okay. I'll be right back.
Be right back. Thanks everyone for waiting. So glad that you're here. We'll just wait for Flora to come back on. Hi, Flora. We can see you, and I think you're on mute right now.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. This technology and a lot today. It's just not being my friend today, but thank you for all sticking it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that beautiful line from Aaliyah's book. And gosh, right along it, dealing with conflicts, dealing with issues, Aaliyah is going to deal with this and has dealt with this, so we can do it too.
Hey.
So part of what I remember about you, I know you and I talked about this recently, but I remember the moment when you shared your idea for this multicultural doll company. We were walking at Calamigos Ranch with one of our friends, and you were telling us about your idea, and I was like, this sounds amazing. Please do it. And a lot of us have ideas that we talk about and don't always come to fruition for all different reasons. But you did it, girl. You did it. And I'm so proud of you. You don't even know. I'm so proud. And so can you tell us a little bit about what it's like, what it has been like starting a business? Because it is tough and you've been through a lot with it. So tell us a little bit about your story in starting Corage Dolls.
Yeah. It's definitely been a journey. As I was mentioning earlier, my background, after I graduated Pepperdine, just give a little more context, I went into advertising. My background's in the space of advertising. So I stayed in LA for a couple years and worked in advertising as well, specifically multicultural advertising. And so it was when I decided to leave LA, and I was like, you know what? Okay, if I'm gonna, I was like, if I'm gonna pursue this, and when I was, telling my old roommate Sasha, I was like, I'm gonna pursue this, and finally, let me, start really working on it. So I went to grad school. So I moved back to the East Coast. I'm initially from New Jersey, but I went to grad school out in Massachusetts at Babson College, and I was like, okay, I want to take some time off from work and really use these next 2 years to see what can this business be. I didn't have a name yet. I just knew I wanted to be in this space of toys, and I knew I really wanted to focus on representation and diversity in the doll space. And so while I was at Babson, I literally used every resource I possibly could, in between, classes, being able to see, hey, what I appreciated about the program is that they allowed you to work on your business ideas for your class assignments. And so, the idea about, hey, I'm not that great in understanding the financial forecasting. How do I even start to think about that? Pitching, and understanding that layer, prototyping. So one of the first things that I was doing with Corage Dolls, was I created a business canvas, which is kind of like, I guess, a staple document, if you want to say, to think about, somewhat of a business plan, and just thinking about, who is this brand for? What am I trying to create? What am I hoping to solve for? What is it that I'm looking for Corage Doll to change and do? And I remember when I was in an entrepreneurship class, probably my first couple weeks at Babson, we had to do a Shark Tank style presentation to pitch your business in 3 minutes. You had 3 slides and 3 minutes to pitch your idea. And then it was basically your classmates would vote. I know that it is crazy. That was one of my first couple weeks at Babson. And
Wow.
you had to pitch your business idea. And I didn't yet really know what the business fully was yet. And in 3 slides was able to more so convey to a classroom of, people who come from other business worlds about the impact truly in the narrative of what it's like when a child is growing up not seeing representation, and that impact it has when you're one of the only few, or this idea that you can't be what you can't see. But when you see it and see the possibilities, what that really opens up and means. And even just the research of being able to see the lack of toy shells that had dolls of color. And see, I'm pointing out the opportunity of what it could truly mean. And so that was one of the first pitch competitions. I guess I won. I guess it was a competition. And I was like, okay, I was able to convey an idea in 3 minutes and 3 slides. And in a room that I didn't think people were going to pay attention to, or think the need of toys or dolls was something that people would care about. But I think the need of what it represented was something that was universal. And so I started the process from there on, let me work through prototyping. I was telling Hannah a little bit earlier, the journey of prototyping a consumer product has definitely been one of the most biggest learning curves that I had to partake on. I don't necessarily know how to draw. My old roommate Sasha, she's a drawer. We're friends, but when I was in grad school, I took a collage of 50 different faces of young Black girls, because I said I really wanted Aaliyah to look like a girl of today. And I spoke to one of my classmates, and I was like, I see you're a drawer. Can you kind of draw just a draft of what this could look like? She drew it, and then from there, I went to 99designs.com and then put out a request for proposal to just try to give a description from there of what I was looking to create with Aaliyah, and got some great connections with different type of engineers who had designed different variations of what Aaliyah could look like. So while I was getting designs, I was actually messaging friends and family members who had kids, and was just like, hey, can you take a look at this item and let me know if you're vibing with the way it looks? Is this a doll your child would like? Is this? So I was always asking for feedback around every step to just understand, is this something that would be of interest? Do you like the hair? Do you like the style? Even though it was just a 3D model. And then after I was going through that phase, when I wanted to actually create the prototype, the physical formation of it, I didn't yet have the materials or the funds to get in contact with the manufacturer. So I would go to the toy store, and I would actually just buy different dolls off the shelf. And then I would go on YouTube and just be like, okay, how can I either change the hair maybe this way, or cut up the clothing? And so, my sewing skills are not good at all. And just try to use it as testing. So I would go to class, and I would go to kind of my community that I was living in, and then just talk with people and just be like, hey, I'm working on this idea, and, working through what the doll could look like, what about this size? I would have people kind of just give me feedback along the way. And then the next stage of that, I 3D printed the doll. So I got to the stage where I took the 3D design and,
Wow.
was able to use a 3D printer that we had at our school, and was just literally continuing to iterate and just continuing to ask people. I've probably overarchingly during my time at school, like spoke to more than 100 people. And then eventually got to a stage where I got my manufacturer, and then eventually got another one, and then got the Aaliyah to the Aaliyah doll that it is today.
That's amazing, Flora. And everything you're saying is so important. From what I've learned in entrepreneurship is talking to people, getting people's feedback. You know, you don't always take it, but you got to hear what people have to say about it to see if this is a product people really want and people see a need for. And then also what you were saying about how you did your pitch and you walked in that room thinking, who here is going to care about this doll idea? But your doll idea is so much more than a doll. It has the most just incredible purpose, and that is so important to you and so important to so many people. So I just love that you have really tied that thread, and I think that's so important for any product that someone's putting together. So thank you. So along with the incredible work that you've done with Corage Dolls, have you had any mentors or family or friends who've come alongside you to support you in your business?
Yeah, definitely throughout this entire journey, even still to this day, being able to have support of family and friends. Some of the first people who bought the doll were some of the people right now on this call who actually, you know, purchased the doll and supported it. But also the idea of, you know, my family as well has been a very big proponent of it. And I've had great mentors, like one of my close mentors, her name is Julianne Zimmerman. When I was back at Babson, you know, she herself was an entrepreneur and also was doing a lot as well to support other women of color entrepreneurs. And so having her as a sounding board when I was like, you know, trying to ultimately get guidance and support and think about how do I even create a company? How do I connect with people? How do I also really think about the purpose? Because I wanted to make sure that even if I was showing up in spaces where it's like, hey, I'm trying to pitch for some money here or pitch for this, it can very much become like, okay, well, like, what do we get out of it? What do we get out of it? And then I always had to remind myself, and she always did a good job reminding me, like, well, who are you doing it for? What are you doing this for? And so I'm in no way, shape, or form anywhere near a brand that's like, oh, I've gotten all these investments or things of that nature. But when you do have a lot of people in your ear, like, and you know, you always have to go back to like, what are you really doing this for and who is it for? Because I was told numerous times by some people who were just like, why didn't you start off with a white doll? Why didn't you do this? And I was like, well, I'm starting first where the most underrepresentation is.
Yeah.
And so that's where my focus is. And want to increase to more ethnicities and different ethnic groups, and even think about boy dolls as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of like understanding your why was definitely something that I've continued to have to remember as I continue to either build new partnerships and new type of mentors to just continue. For me, I'm very much always a student. I never feel that I've done learning. And I feel like the moment you're done learning, then you're not really like, you're not growing. And one of the great people that I had an opportunity to meet and engage with was actually the founder of Build-A-Bear. So I had reached out to Maxine Clark on Twitter and just literally contacted her one day and loved what, you know, she built with Build-A-Bear. She was very active. Maxine Clark, for anyone who cares, like she's very active on Twitter. And so I reached out to her and just explained what my company was. And then she was like, let's just chat. And so I remember I was at a vendor event, and then I spoke to her just on a phone call in my car and just really got like, how did you go about doing this and creating in a space of your own? And she gave me such great advice. And then she sent me her book, and then we had another phone call. And so even though like, you know, we just had a few phone calls where I got advice from her, and just putting myself out there was something that was like, okay, you never know until you do it. So definitely have had just some really great people that I've had the opportunity to interact with and build great relationships with.
That's amazing. That's so brave of you. You're just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask Maxine Clark to start a Build-A-Bear. That's so amazing. I love that. I love that.
Get into those DMs, people. Get into those DMs.
Yeah. Yes, that
Never
is so
know.
important. We all like, thank goodness. I mean, there are pros and cons to the internet these days, but man, that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
pros, is that people are reachable. And if
Mm.
people are like, yeah, you've got a great purpose for your idea, let's talk. Like, that's invaluable. That's amazing. I love that you did that. So as you've shown us, Flora, starting a business takes a lot of perseverance, and you go through some difficult times, and you have to maintain this sense of optimism, which thankfully that's natural to you. You're so optimistic, which I love. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how have you gotten through them, or how are you dealing with them now?
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, one of the first really big challenges when I was even starting the process, like I said, I do not come from the manufacturing space. I don't come from the toy industry. I come from advertising. And when I was starting off the process of trying to even find a manufacturer and understand the supply chain process, like the learning curve was high. Like though I was in a class learning about supply chain, of trying to apply it at the same time was just like, okay, how do I think about the contracts? How do I think about the lead times it will take to ship something? Like, oh, it's going to come from China. Okay, it'll take a couple months. But I was like, is it how much, longer? Like all the different stages of prototype and molds and things of that nature. And so my first manufacturer that I had, my goal was that by the time I was graduating grad school, I was going to launch a Kickstarter. So I was like, okay, up these 2 years that I've already, been here, the big kind of launch is going to be the culmination of the hard work. And I'm going to graduate and launch a Kickstarter. And that did not happen. And it happened a little bit later, but my manufacturer, I saw that they had worked with another brand who was in a toy industry. And so I just kind of reached out to them on a whim. And the thing is that the product development team is in California, but the actual manufacturer is in China. And so I only interacted with the company through the team in California. And so being me, the day that I decided to reach out to this company was the same day of Trump's inauguration. It was like, okay, I'm going to go do something to keep my mind off of things. And that's how that day is just very pivotal, and I remember everything. But basically, the journey at first was seamless. It was like, okay, we're working through contracts, we're working through the lead times. How long will this process take? What is each stage? What's the costs? And, I paid money, relatively good amount of money up front. And I was starting to get visuals of what the doll mold was looking like. But as time started to progress and we needed to reach the next stage, I was getting less and less, feedback and less interaction with the project management team for the company. And over time, it just very much was like, I was very much engaging with them very little. And so I started to have to contact them very frequently and be like, hey, where's the update on the doll? Why am I not seeing anything? Like, so on and so forth. And it very much was just kind of ignoring me. And they were like, oh, we're getting this, we're getting that. And then as I was getting closer to, a couple months before graduation, because I was hoping that by March, they told me initially when we started, they were like, March, you'll have your final, prototype, your doll sample, we'll be able to ship it. And I said, great, I can do my Kickstarter in May, blah, 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 blah. By the time March came, we barely got through stage 2 of like barely the proper molds. And so when I started to get really worried and contact them, they were like, oh, actually, we had to change manufacturers at the last minute. And, the other manufacturer didn't have what we need. And I was like, oh, as your client, this would have been something that would have been key for me to know. And how am I involved in this decision process as the person who's the client? And eventually I just started to get less trustful of that they were able to complete the task. And I was starting to just move back my Kickstarter when I was going to plan for it and everything of that nature. And I remember one day when I was probably a couple weeks from graduating, and I had at that time gone through another month of just like debating and arguing with this manufacturing company and just basically like, I want my money back. Like, I don't know what's going on. You guys are not doing the task. And I remember I was in my hallway of my classroom building and I was about to break down. Like, I remember I was about to just break down and cry because I was like, okay, I've been working towards all this. And I felt like I had nothing to show for it. And so when, they were like, okay, we're going to be able to fix this, get it right. So I graduated. I didn't have a Kickstarter yet, and then eventually, I ultimately, decided to pull from that manufacturer. They quote unquote finished the doll, but it wasn't actually the doll I asked for, and so I, had to seek legal advice and things of that nature. And it was a lot that I learned in that process in terms of looking back and the idea of trying to understand the supply chain process. How do I actually work with who's actually the manufacturer? What are the terms and things of that nature? So I can fully learn. Fortunately, a friend of mine from grad school, she was able to give me a connection to another brand, another toy company, and that is the manufacturer that I still work with today. So in light of all that happening, on top of just quickly in light of everything with COVID now, this year, I had did a pitch competition early this year and won some funding and was planning to come out with some new additional items for the Corage Doll brand. And then, of course, when things got impacted in light of supply chain, my manufacturer got, shut down temporarily. I was working with a supplier in California for a specific initiative, and that got shut down. And so, the idea of like, okay, another moment of trying to think of things, I had to work on things to pivot, to be able to really think about, okay, I do have the fortunateness of also working, with a company while I'm working on my business, but also understanding the impact of how much everything with the pandemic has especially impacted businesses, especially businesses of color. And so that has been continued to think about like, okay, how am I making certain pivots and how do I think about that in my planning for next year?
Yes. Wow, Flora. So sorry that the pandemic has caused this craziness, but you're going to get back. You're going to get back there.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. You're going to keep moving forward. So you've mentioned how important it is in incorporating an incredible community of Black women as a core part of building up Corage Dolls. Tell us more about the collaborations that you've made with other Black business owners and creatives.
Yeah, one thing that's been very pivotal and important to me, as I speak about, elevating, educating, encouraging other girls of color, it's very much been a very important factor to me in terms of who do I bring along in this process, because for me, it's not just about like my business thriving, but also helping especially other women thrive in what they're building. And so my marketing partner, she's a Black female, and I got connected through her through one of my classmates when I was in grad school. And she has been right there through me throughout all these years as we've been working through building the marketing, building the kind of identity of the brand. For me, throughout my entire process, when I've worked with suppliers, like even working on my book, when I worked with my illustrator, I was specifically looking for a Black woman. I was just like, you know what, like if it's going to take me a bit more time to find an illustrator who understands children's books and who has that experience, like I actually went on Instagram and I looked up different portfolios of different, because I guess people put their portfolios now on Instagram. And that's how I was able to find this woman actually based in Ghana. My illustrator is from Ghana.
That's
She is
incredible.
based in Ghana, from Ghana. We communicated literally through Skype. And email, but Betty Blatzy, she is based in Ghana, and I loved the work that she did, and I was just like, yes, technology, right? I loved what she was able to create and do, and I said, hey, this is my vision for Corage Dolls in this book, and she was able to do it, and I really wanted to make that concerted effort to go out and find that type of talent. And then even with different partnerships I've done with some other brands. Like I just last week recorded a podcast with another Black female entrepreneur who has a podcast business called the Veranda Entrepreneur Podcast. And we collaborated to create a holiday gift guide of other Black businesses we support. Because we were like, the idea, like, I want to see every business thriving, but I definitely want to see, every, Black businesses, brown businesses, just a plethora of women businesses succeeding. And so we've collaborated a couple times as well. And I've partnered with other friends that I'm always looking out as well for other female businesses. My mentor is someone who is a female entrepreneur herself. And then one of the things we pivoted with the Corage Dolls brand is that we actually, because we couldn't, necessarily get some of the things we want to create this year, I decided to launch a fundraiser, an always-on fundraiser, where in light of what was going on in COVID and the impact, as I thought about food justice and thought about the idea of food insecurity rising, I was like, I want to create a fundraiser where resources of the Corage Doll brand can go towards these initiatives. So Feeding America, as well as the racial justice organization Until Freedom, which is led by a Black female, Tamika Mallory, I decided to work with a young upcoming Black female designer to create a t-shirt that had a statement that was like, how in the midst of us navigating all of us in our wellness, our perseverance to keep moving on and keep rising, created a t-shirt called Cultivate Courage, and then created like a mug that called in a bag. And so we created this fundraiser, and I worked with that designer, and now we have that as an always on thing, where all of the proceeds of that collection go towards Feeding America and Until Freedom. So every process that I try to do, I'm always just like, if any way I can put on another female of color, especially, like, I will do what I can to make that happen.
Oh my gosh, Flora, just more and more, you just like keep being my inspiration. And like, I want a little slice of Flora in my life to have that confidence and perseverance. So thank you for sharing your incredible words with all of us. I'm sure many feel the same and share that with me. Lastly, actually two more questions. What are your future plans for Corage Dolls? Where do you see it going? Is there another story?
Yeah. So like I said, my big vision is I want to revolutionize the American girl, the new American girl. I'm all about speaking it into existence. That's how I live. But the notion of, one of the things that I didn't get to necessarily accomplish this year, that is a big plan for next year, is expanding into new assortment and accessories with the doll line. That is something. So another thing, I worked with another Black female designer to create a really cool, I know it was going to come out this year, but it'll be ready next year. A really cool, I found this amazing designer in Atlanta and wanted to create a new apparel collection for the Aaliyah doll, and also rework packaging. And so like we did a partnership. And that is the plan. Like I'm working now with, starting to explore different suppliers to see, okay, who can create the doll clothes? If anyone knows people who's good at creating doll clothes. So that's what I'm exploring now. And then also looking at, later on in the second half of the year about even, just adding the next doll. But most importantly, like I want to look at, exploring like some local just retailers and just starting small in that space to get further the brand. Not thinking right now about any space of mass, but really thinking about local communities and local partnerships that we can do, and just really just building further awareness and partnerships is definitely going to be a key big focus as we work as well on extending further the line.
Oh, that's great, Flora. I'm wishing you all the success. It's going to be awesome. I love that, speaking it into existence. It's so true. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. We've talked about this, where sometimes you're a little bit afraid to tell people your idea. One, because you're like, oh, what if someone else does it? But also, what if I don't do it? But the more you talk about it with people that you trust, and the more that you share your experience and you share your idea, the more people you get on your side who are like, yes, do it, or who are able to give you really great feedback. So I think that is so awesome, and you are going to do it next year. It's going to be great.
Thank you. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Exactly. This year is all about pivoting, and we're all pivoting almost into 360, I think. So we're doing it.
We all are. Yes, we are.
Exactly. So for those of us who are on the call who, either hope to start a business someday ourselves, or are looking forward to, making a change in our career or anything, what are some of your words of wisdom in what you've experienced in your career life and in starting Corage Dolls?
Yeah, I think definitely, like, as you start to either concept your idea, just start testing it out. Like for me, I was either waiting for a moment of perfection or waiting for a moment to just be like, okay, when I got this, then I'll do that. When I get this, and then it becomes this ongoing loop, and then it doesn't necessarily happen, and you're always craving that pivotal moment for something to happen, and then like, bam, the business just blows up. And it is a journey. I think sometimes entrepreneurship gets glorified in the media in a way, at least from Silicon Valley's land, where you're like, hey, someone wrote an idea on a napkin, and bam, they got an investor, and bam, they're good to go, and now they exited and they're on the next thing. And for like, that's not everyone's case. But I think this idea of, in light of technology in the era that we live in today, like this is such a pivotal time to even test new thoughts and ideas, and to explore ways that the business can really just go off. And so that's why I think that, like, try it, test it in some way. And even if you're just trying to test it with your friends and family, like, this is a concept or idea I have, like, you'll be surprised who's around you within, because the first big network is those around you, and what you will be able to garner and support and just feedback. So that's kind of the biggest thing I think about. And I think secondarily, like, just continue to remember, who are you doing this for? And why? Like, who's really, like, who are you doing? Like, what are you you wanted to create this for a reason, or you thought this was something that was needed, or maybe you saw something that was needed in a way that maybe somebody else wasn't doing it in the way that maybe you could deliver it. And so I think remembering the why, because there are moments when I'm literally like, at an event, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting necessarily any sales, or I don't know if Corage Dolls is really connecting, but then I will have a little kid who come over and see Aaliyah and just light up. And they're like, the doll looks like me. I'm just like that. The doll has hair like mine. She looks like me. I'm so happy. And so those are the moments where it's like, okay, this is why I do this. This is why I'm doing this.
Yes. So amazing, Flora. So true. Thank you so much, Flora, for this incredible conversation. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to chat with us today. And I just wanted to reiterate, I'm going to post it here. And Paul, thank you so much for posting Flora's website as well. I'm going to post this now, her website and also her Instagram handle. So be sure to follow her at Corage Dolls on Instagram, and go to her website and sign up for her newsletter. I'm on her newsletter, so we're going to stay in touch and figure out, see how we can all continue to support Flora and everything that she's doing. And also we have, we're doing a raffle for your very own doll in time for the holidays. So I did a random number generator, and let me chat to you, Flora. Flora, now the winner is.
Let me make sure I'm doing this right.
Yes. Okay. Oops. Let me make sure I write the name right. Okay. All right. This is the winner, Flora. Just sent it to you.
Okay. Okay. So I'll read the name. Is that what I'm supposed to do now?
Yes. Yeah. So winner
I gotta make sure. Like, is there a drum roll? I didn't know if there was a beat, a drum roll. And the winner is Priya Kale Sprenger. Priya. Come on down, Priya. Come on down.
So Priya, if you can message me, Hannah Dean, your email address, then we can connect and make sure that I get you your doll. But everyone, thank you so much for being here. And you are welcome to unmute your microphones if you want to ask Flora any questions or give her a shout out. You're welcome to do it now. So thanks everyone for joining us. We're so glad that you could be here. Can you guys unmute yourself? Oh, let's see. Let me make sure we can.
Oh, they can't unmute.
Let me see.
There you go. Hello? There you go.
There we go. Perfect.
If I can, I gotta run take my daughter to a class. It's Renee Roque, and I graduated in 1997. I just wanted to listen and say so proud of you. I'm a 60s kid, so when I went to Pepperdine, I was on that float in the Rose Parade way back when. Wearing my toga. But I do want to say, when I grew up, it was always, I don't see anyone who looks like me. And it does do something to your identity to not see anyone who's quite like you. So just kudos to you. I really appreciate it. You know, it's a thing that I have, you know, with my daughter as well, because she's got the light skin and curly hair. So think about one for us too. That would be great. But it's just, it really is something that when you grow up, you don't see people identifying like you. And it does do something to your insides, not being able to identify. So thank you for this.
Yeah.
Thank you for our community. And look forward to staying in touch with you and seeing what you have next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Renee.
Hey, Flora.
Hello. Hello.
You. And I want to give a shout out to the other 2011 graduates. So I see you, Susan Park. I see you, KPL.
KPL.
And Hannah, of course. And so I have two questions for you, Flora.
Okay.
My
Yes,
first
Kate.
question is Corage Doll, the naming of the company. What's the inspiration for the name? So that's my first question.
Okay.
Would you like for me to also ask the second question now, or wait until you respond and then ask a follow-up question?
You can answer now, and then I'll remember.
How about the name Aaliyah? Is it named is it a particular person that you thought, oh, there, you know, like Aaliyah the singer, may she rest in peace? Or is it another person that's significant to your life? So I'm just curious with name.
Yeah, so I'll go backwards just because of, like, you kind of answered the question. But yes, the Aaliyah was named after the singer.
Wow.
So if there was trivia ever, Kate, like, that would be yes. I love the singer growing up. I still have her poster. I still have her poster. And so that's why I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have that. And it's such a powerful name. Going to your first question, it was one day I was sitting in my apartment when I was in grad school, and I was working on my whole business canvas document. And I was just like, you know what, like, what do I want this brand to stand for and mean? Like, I want to have young girls be inspired and be fierce and just know that, like, even with structural barriers that are put against us at times, that we can still be unstoppable. And so I started writing down different words, and I was just like, I want girls to be bold. I want them to be fierce. I want them to have courage. And the word that just kept popping up was courage. And so I went on dictionary.com and looked up the origin of the word courage. And it was like, courage without the U. And it was in Latin and French and Spanish. And it all meant the same thing. And I was like, you know what? When I go international, not if, when I go international, this can still be the same phrase used and it'll still have the same meaning. And so that is what, and then I just decided to do a little, like, flair, like a Beyonce, and just call it Corage.
Yes.
To give it that type of idea.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes. That was a good question, Kate. That was a good question.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. My name is Paula. I just graduated, feels like years ago, but May of 2020 this year. Yeah, so thank you. I really, to be quite honest, Pepperdine newsletters to the emails, they'll come, I might see them, I might not, and usually I'm not usually the one to be incredibly involved in anything school related, but when I did see this one, I immediately jumped on it because it was like, I love it. And diversity is something that's so, I don't know, something personal to me as a Korean American, as someone that sometimes feels out of place at times as well, although these struggles for a Korean American and a Black woman, for example, are very different, but on the same page. But my question to you is, so diversity in my life felt kind of forced in times that I wasn't looking for it. So I'm a riches to rags story, and then now middle, hopefully, story. But I realized that now that I'm relatively grown and I'm looking for it, I can't find it anymore. And I don't know if that means that's kind of related to the world of academia or if it's related to still socioeconomic status and stuff. So I was wondering if you could say anything regarding that and your personal story, and also how you see kind of the reach of your company and the roadblocks relating to race, honestly.
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who's like never really had the whole, riches kind of narrative, but very much have, I think especially this year, with the impact of how COVID has just very much impacted so many people's wallets and so many, like, what the idea of like, what does what you value really mean? And for me, you know, the idea of this year kind of uncovering and highlighting just the narrative around what does it mean to actually address systemic barriers that exist for communities that have either been ignored, underserved, or underappreciated. And I think even just the idea of like, I didn't necessarily, I wasn't the person who like applied for like the PPP loans that were kind of given for businesses. And, but like 90%, those of you I know, 90% of minority owned businesses didn't even get the PPP loans. And those are like the loans for people who may not know, loans for businesses that were given as part of like the stimulus package and things of that nature to help support small businesses in light of COVID. But unfortunately, a lot of minority businesses weren't even, had access to that. And I very much have tried to very much just think about the idea of like, how am I just trying to live within my means, and really like, though I do work full time, I put basically my money into my business. And so that's really where I was like, you know what, I'm going to make that focus there, and being like, you know, I'll make purchases here and there. I was able to pay off things for student loans. But if I really want to be able to think about what is this end goal that I want to achieve with Corage Dolls and grow it, like, and having a business costs money. If people think that like having a business, start a business, like you got to spend money to make money in a way, and there are some losses you'll have with that too, because you may not get the money back. And with this year, I just really, now that I'm working from home and thinking about how do I save, and thinking about like, okay, how can I really apply to like, you know, for next year, like I said, I want to be able to get the accessories and get the apparel. Like I'm also looking as well as grant programs and things of that nature as I'm continuing to further, and also just do some exploration and partnerships with other brands. That's like, how can we build upon each other's credibility? As I don't maybe necessarily, I don't have the resources like a Mattel or like an American Girl. And so how do I get either crafty or think about other ways? And so I think for me, it's thinking about that narrative there. And then secondly, thinking about the idea of race. You know, I think the business that I have, surprisingly, like, you know, earlier this year, a large percentage of sales that I was actually getting from was coming from white mothers who were very much looking to expose their children and even their own understanding of understanding the impact of race, and the idea of building empathy and or supporting Black businesses or supporting businesses of color. And so I think as people are either continuing to learn more or address and understand, like, hey, it's not only important only for a Black child to have, or a doll or a person who's of the same ethnicity to have, but like also for people who are not of that ethnicity or race to also have the item, because it helps build empathy, and it also helps build just this idea of understanding another person's identity and culture. So I think what is being unlocked this year opens up a lot of the doors for next year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's a really thorough answer, and I agree with that. Really, no, with the whole like other cultures opening up their avenues to how they see other cultures as well, because Asian American cultures are very like, don't say anything. You think something, quiet, like don't say anything. It's gonna bring you shame. All the things that Mulan touched up on. But yeah, I agree with that, and hopefully I can be a part of that new coalition to really see things the way they should be, even though it's hard.
Yeah, and I think just to the last point there, like as you now are coming into the, you know, world, of course, I'm sure your year was pretty crazy, you know, getting ready to graduate, and how do you navigate and also finding your voice. But I think this is with the age of technology and the element of your, especially your generation, is demanding more from all, like demanding more from companies, demanding more in the values, demanding more in how we all show up and know that like, are we really doing enough in our day-to-day? And I think that's absolutely an opportunity for you as you go out, as you know, whether you're working at a company or working to create your own thing, of like, who are we doing this for? And it always goes back, who are we doing this for? Who are we leaving out when we think about, so I think as you reflect on your own identity and start to come into yourself even further into as you enter the workforce, also, you know, just practicing like you know, is every voice heard here, or why, or like how do we change that? And I think the more that people decide to even, you know, share that a little bit, it does make people uncomfortable, at least at first, but it definitely changes the system and it changes the way. Thank you.
Hi, this is Priya. I won the doll.
Hey, Priya.
Hey, I am the oldest person here today. So I'm happy to get a doll. Never too old.
Yes.
So,
You look very young, so you just graduated,
I
right?
graduated Seaver in 1990.
That's amazing.
Hey, whatever your skincare routine is, it's going good.
I have a daughter who's an alum and back east in Boston grad school, and a son now who's part of SAO.
Are you Nina's mom?
I'm Nina's mom.
Nice. Hi.
And my son Braden is part of SAO.
Oh, yay, love it.
So, goodness gracious, you know my Nina. Anyway, I have to tell you, I am just so proud of you and so excited for all of y'all, because I grew up, I've been through desegregation in Columbus, Ohio, and the busing initiative, and we moved to New Orleans, and I came to Pepperdine from New Orleans in '86. And the landscape of our world right now is changing so much for the better, and also awareness, inclusivity. And I am just really excited about what you guys are going to see on the future. Uncomfortable things lead to much better things in the future. And I am just so proud of you, Flora, for doing everything that you are doing, and you just keep on going.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Priya.
Thanks for the doll.
Yes, definitely post about it. Post about it. Tag us. Tag us.
I will. Well, actually, I have Nina do that because I'm not that great.
Okay. Okay. As long as someone posts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Would anyone else like to ask Flora a question or share a statement? You're welcome to do so.
I just want to say hi.
Mary Gwen Scott. So yes, Mary Gwen she was one of my residents when I was an RA at good old Crocker.
Crocker. Yep, good times. Flora was one of the first people I met at Pepperdine, because she was like there on move-in day with everybody coming in, and just was like this ball of energy. I almost couldn't keep up with her. She was awesome. I was super shy, and so I was probably like, oh, there's so much extroverted energy coming at me right now. But she was great. It was awesome. Flora, this is just incredible. I've kind of watched your journey just through your Facebook posts about it, and it's just been so inspiring. And thank you for doing this, because this is kind of demystifying the process a little bit, which is exciting for us, because there's so much I don't know about this. Like, it's not personally the avenue that I'm going with the career that I'm picking, but it's so fascinating to hear about it, and especially at a time where we really need something like this. So just thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you. And I always see the amazing work you're doing. And so like, I know exactly what the works that you're working on. And so, and the conversations you're having, especially around the conversation of race and bringing it up. So keep doing what you're doing, because I love it. Thank you.
I will. It's very important to me.
Thanks, everyone. Anyone else have something they want to say? Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Flora. I love how Mary said that. You are a ball of energy and positivity and sunshine and love. And I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful that you came to Pepperdine and that we got to meet there, and that we are still friends, and that now we're talking, and that it's been so fun seeing all the comments flow in. You are really inspiring, I think, many others on this call, and also just giving them a voice so that they feel heard. And I just love what you said. You can't be what you can't see, and that's so important. And I just look forward to all of us continuing to do that. And I like how you also said, make sure that every voice is heard in the proverbial room, you know? And I really connected with the wait, and you don't need to wait for a moment of perfection to make a move. I know that's a personal struggle I have where I'm like, it has to be perfect to make it happen, but that's not true, especially with entrepreneurs. It's all about reiterating, and just making that first step. So thank you so much for encouraging all of us to make that first step and find what we're passionate about, be it something we do in an entrepreneurial venture, or be it something we're a part of personally in our community or in our current job. So thank you for all of your inspiration, Flora, and we're so excited to continue to follow your career, and we're so grateful that you took your time to be here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you as well, Hannah. Thank you seriously for holding this down and continue all the amazing work you're doing to keep us alums connected and truly feel welcome as always as a wave. So, thank you all for attending.
Yes, I have a wonderful team here. Avesta, Molly, Matt, and Chad, and we're all here from the alumni office. So let us know if there's anything we can do to help you through this time, and hoping you all have a fantastic Christmas and wonderful holiday season and an incredible new year. 2021.
2021. We all going big in 2021. It can only go up from here. It can literally only go up from here.
2021 is what dreams are made of. All right, everyone. Have a fantastic evening, and we will see you at the next event.